Okay, this is a message for every single one of my listeners. If you have not signed up for Prep Dish yet, you need to get on it. Like literally pause this episode, go on your computer, prepdish.com/heygirl and sign up for your free trial. I promise you, you're not going to regret it. Who doesn't need help every single week? Preparing and planning for healthy meals for your family, for yourself, and Prep Dish does all of the prep work for you apart from slicing your own vegetables, but that part's fun. So they'll email you the meal plan. You can decide whether you want gluten-free or vegan, whatever it is, and they'll send it to you. It'll have your shopping list, all of the instructions for preparation, everything that you need, and the meals are delicious. I know we have a lot of favorites in this household, and I know that your family will love, love, love you for signing up for Prep Dish. So I don't care what your excuse is. Pause this now. Don't go into the episode until you've signed up. prepdish.com/heygirl. Let me know what you think.
Hey girls, and welcome to season 3 of the Hey Girl podcast with my mom, Bethany Needham. Each week, guests will share their amazing stories of following Jesus on all kinds of journeys. I hope their stories inspire you to run your race in your place. Thank you so much for listening.
Hey girls, and welcome to another week of the Hey Girl podcast. I hope you are already having a fantastic Monday or whatever day you listen to this podcast. And I hope that this episode just brightens the rest of your day. Emily Saxe was introduced to me through my friend Kristine Rego, and she nominated her to be on the show. So not only did I get to interview her recently, but she also flew out and was part of our Simply Beautiful conference a couple of weeks ago. So Emily is a sweetheart. I absolutely love listening to her story, getting to know her, and I know that you're going to enjoy her as well. If you happen to be at Simply Beautiful and you were in her workshop, then you're in for a treat because you get to hear her story here today. But even if you weren't there, I know that she'll be a blessing to you. So enjoy this episode and this story from Emily Saxe. Okay, girls, I get to introduce you to a really fun guest. This is Emily Saxe. I don't know you other than through a mutual friend who is Kristine Rego, the Kristine that co-founded Simply Beautiful with me. She helps with some behind the scenes with Hey Girl. And honestly, she's one of those friends that when she tells me like, hey, you should interview this girl, or hey, she should come speak for Simply Beautiful, I'm just like, absolutely. Yes. Yes. And amen. I don't know her, but you like her. And that's all I need to know. So welcome, Emily, to the Hey Girl podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, Kristine is a wonderful person to have connections with because she's the real deal.
Yes, yes. I love that. In fact, her and I have been voxing this morning back and forth. So when I tell her that I interviewed her, there's probably going to be a little bit of jealousy in our friendship, but it's fine. She'll get over it. So Emily, I am very excited to hear more about your story. I've heard a few bits and pieces here and there, but I know for some of our listeners, this is the first time they've ever heard you. And so why don't you take some time and just share with us your story?
So I live in Indiana, which is half a country away from you guys, but I did grow up in Massachusetts. So my parents met in Massachusetts and all 5 of us kids were born there. So I have 3 sisters and a brother, and we moved to Maryland when I was 7, but I always consider Massachusetts my home. Like that's where my heart is when I think about my home, but I lived in Maryland for a lot longer. So go Red Sox. But
yeah,
I always love talking about my family because I think, especially these days, we have the rare family where all 5 of us kids and my parents have a strong relationship with Jesus. And that has definitely played a part in my testimony, just having my parents be wise counsels for me and never really having to worry about my siblings straying or going through a trial of not having a relationship with Christ. So I think that's a rare thing, especially with 5 kids. So I'm very, very thankful for that. But they all still live in Maryland. So I am in Indiana, about 600 miles away from them. But growing up, we were all really close, and we still, for the most part, maintain that closeness. But a funny thing about me, so growing up, I always wanted to be an actress, which I just laugh at when I think about. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being an actress, but I am definitely a more reserved person, and I like this kind of conversation, one-on-one or small group, but I'm not a big, put me in the middle of a big group of people and I'll stick with the people I know. Like, that's my personality. So I just laugh at how God moves.
I wonder what it was that made you want to be, what about that, if it was so...
Well, a part of me wanted to get into the Christian movie industry and make it better.
Gotcha. From your mouth to God's ears. Yes. It is getting better, though. At least
it is.
Either that or I'm getting softer. I don't know. But
well, they actually have, I think, real Hollywood movies now, as opposed to, the movie sets that were not the greatest. But
I grew up with the original Left Behind series and things that still haunt my dreams.
That was my dream. I was going to make that better.
Hallelujah. Well, I'm glad that even though you may not have been the actress in it, that God has moved in that industry.
For real. That's been very humbling for me to accept. But that was kind of my dream. And I did all through elementary up through part of college. I was acting on stage. I was singing, doing worship. And I just really felt like I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But, we make these plans and then God laughs at us and changes them. And in this case, I'm really glad that he did. So I went to Liberty University, which is in Virginia, before it became the politicalness that it is today. But when I was there, I was a part of a theater program, and I did enjoy it, but it was a very tough program, which is part of the reason why I went to Liberty, because it was a great one. But I started realizing a mixture of maybe I don't have the skills that I need to get me to the movie set, a mixture of that. And then also, I think this is just more of a hobby for me. I realized I didn't want to go from job to job, from audition to audition, hoping that I could get a part and make money. That's just a stressful thing. And it also is a huge blow to your pride when my professors peek you in front of everybody. And that was growing for me, I think, even now as a writer, because editors do that to your writing. But I just slowly over time realized I don't think this is what God has for me. But in my stubborn nature for 2 years of college, I was like, no, this is what I've always wanted to do. So this is what I'm going to do. And there was a time where God was really moving in me to make a change. I just had such a burden on my heart for a good year because I was just ignoring that pull. And finally, I remember one night I just broke down, realizing, okay, I need to do something. I can't continue ignoring him. I may not know exactly what he wants me to do, but I know that I need to say, I'm open for what you want me to do. And that was the semester I switched to a journalism major. And it just made sense. I don't know why I didn't see this before, because when I was little, I would write these horrific stories. They were awful, but, I would pull out my parents' old typewriter and just have the time of my life typing these stories of lost puppies and princesses. They were really bad.
That's what I was going to be are they horrific as in scary or horrific as in
poorly written? My stories I had no spelling. I still am a horrible speller, but I wrote this story about a princess and she would say your highness a lot, but I didn't know how to spell your highness. So it was your hiney throughout the whole story.
That sounds like a fantastic children's book.
But so it just made sense because I've been telling stories my whole life, and I had a journalism minor at the time. So I just flip-flopped them because I had already taken all those theater classes. So I didn't want to waste that time and money. But the moment that I changed, in all seriousness, it was like this weight lifted. And I finally realized this is what it feels like to follow what God has for me. And just the peace that came after that. I know people say that and it really sounds like a cliche, but it just was very true of this is what God has for me. And haven't looked back to theater ever since.
Well, I mean, when you're writing books like your Heine, it's
you know you're going to be a best-selling author.
you know it's. I mean, come on. If Everybody Poops is a bestseller, then I think your Heine has a shot. Have you really given it to an editor? Let's give this book a shot.
No, I really don't want to ruin my career before it's just gotten started.
Oh, so that's a huge shift, but I mean, from everything you're saying, absolutely makes sense. So what did it look like to not just, because there's one thing to change your major, it's another thing to actually be a writer.
It's a difficult thing to be a writer. I'm really thankful that God brought me to Liberty because it is a great school with great programs, and my professors really taught me not only how to write well and how to edit well, but how to take my skills and bring them into a secular world with a Christian perspective. So I really enjoyed learning from them because I did newspaper writing and editing my senior year, and it was just really helpful to see, okay, this is something, and they did this with all their different classes, but for me personally, it was realizing this is something I can do. God's given me the skills for it, and he's given me the passion for it. So even though the writing industry is very, very difficult to get into, I knew he has a plan. So I just have to trust that he's going to take me in whatever direction he wants. And that direction brought me to Indiana. Between my junior and my senior year, I worked with middle schoolers at a Christian camp in Indiana and fell in love with it. I remember coming back to school crying, thinking, I can't believe that was just one summer and now it's over. And God brought me back the next summer after that. And during that time, I was doing a little bit of copy editing and writing for a magazine in Kansas City, which actually used to be Brio magazine.
Yes.
Yeah, so they've had a lot of changes, and I think they're back now. But I did a little bit of intern work with them when they were, I think it was called Sisterhood maybe. And so they were going to offer me an intern position for a year and then hopefully turn that into a job. And so I was really excited, like, wow, I'm getting my dream job, because I've always wanted to work for a magazine and be in the office working on layout and design and stories. And then I got an email while I was working at camp after senior year saying, sorry, we're actually folding, so we can't offer you a job anymore. And I just remember after that applying to other jobs, and just my heart wasn't in it. And so I was praying, God, I don't know why you brought me into this industry to only not really care right now about trying to find a job in it. And you closed this door of my dream job, so what's going on? And God just told me, you need to stay at this camp, which was weird because I wasn't using my degree at all. And at least for me, I kind of felt like a failure if I wasn't going to be using my degree. Then what was the point of getting it? So that was a struggle. But at the same time, again, when I said, okay, this is where you want me, I'm going to stay, it was just this piece of, yes, this is the right place. So I did that for a few years, and that's where I ended up, not at camp, but in Indiana at the church I started going to, met my now husband. And so I look back and just think, yes, God, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what brought me here, of God closing those doors and staying at that camp for a few years, doing middle school and high school ministry. And finally, when my husband and I were engaged, I felt God bringing me back to journalism. So I quit my job in faith, thinking, all right, I know this is the new direction. Let's see where it takes me. So I started full-time journalism freelancing. And my husband has been an amazing support, just realizing he's supporting me financially because I don't make a lot of money doing what I do, and also supporting me to follow my dream, knowing that I may not be contributing financially to our family, but he knows that this is what God is calling me to do. So supporting me in that too.
That's amazing. I love that each of your steps you were talking about, like being in college, feeling that burden that God, that this whole going into the Christian movie industry was not it. And you kind of held on. You even said for like a year, your heart was burdened, right? And then it's the shift from thinking you're going into writing to, no, I want you to stay at this camp. And maybe a little less time feeling it for like, okay, I'm going to stay at the camp. And I loved your last one was just like, and then I quit my job and I was like, God, I don't know. Okay, what, like at this point, you're like, I don't want to be miserable. I just want to do it. So just tell me what to do. I'll do it. And now here you are freelancing. So for somebody who is not super familiar with like freelance writing, journalism, all of that, what does this season, this kind of day-to-day life look like for you in this journey that you're walking?
It looks a lot different than I ever thought my life would look because I work from home. And I always knew when I was at camp, I came to the realization, and I had a desk job in college working for a communications team, and I realized God did not create me to work behind a desk. So working at camp was great for that. And then working at home now, it's wonderful because I create my own schedule and I can work wherever I want from my kitchen table or from a coffee shop, the library. But basically my day-to-day tasks are I run and manage my own website called To Unearth. And so I wear all the hats for that. So I write the articles. It's like devotional style articles, and then I have some prayer devotionals and weekly devotionals on there. But then I also work mainly with a Christian magazine, a very small Christian magazine, and I do writing for them and their social media. So I have a lot of my resumes out there, so people will contact me and say, hey, can you do this job for me? So that looks like a one and done kind of thing. I send them my invoice and then that's it. Other people like this Christian magazine, it's more of an hourly week by week job. And then with my website, that takes up most of my time because it's just a lot of writing every day. I put out 2 articles a week, so it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work not really having a quote unquote official job than I thought it was going to be. Because I keep on adding more things to my plate, which is good. God is providing different jobs for me and different connections. But even like doing the Simply Beautiful conference, that was a random thing of, hey, I have the ability to do this because I'm not tied down to a desk job. And it's a fun way for me to be able to connect with other people. But that's also a challenging part as well. Just working by myself every day. So.
No, absolutely. Tell me, in the midst of, going to coffee shops, working from home, all the things, what does your walk with Jesus look like in the midst of that as far as carving out space? So I just recently started working from home, and this is me like giving her advice. But no, like when there's no separation from home and work, there is a lot of gifts to that, especially for me as a mom, where I don't have to like worry about, oh, I got to be home by this time because my kids, like I'm working from home. Now, the danger that I'm finding is that it can also be super easy to just constantly be working because it's right there. And you're like, oh, I'm just going to do this one more thing. Or you wake up and you're staring at work and there's no like, I got to get ready, have my quiet time, and then go to work because you woke up at work. Oh, so what does that look like for you to not necessarily separate? Because I think, our spiritual walk should absolutely be part of our work and what we do. But what does your time with Jesus look like? How do you guard that from waking up in your workplace?
It is very hard. And even this morning, I was praying through that because I have a quiet time every morning. So I get up, I don't get dressed right away. I just come downstairs, make coffee, breakfast, whatever, and have a quiet time. It was longer my quiet time was longer before I started working from home. And I think part of that is just life is busier. So I sleep in a little bit longer than I used to because I don't have to be at an office. So I don't have to get up by a certain time. But it's very hard for my mind to not just jump ahead to, okay, I just need to get started on this. So I really try to keep that breakfast time, my Jesus time. And it helps too because my husband hasn't left for work yet. So I don't start my work until he's gone. And that has helped put a buffer on that time. But because I do have a lot more jobs right now than I did when I first started out, I'm pretty bad at guarding my being at home time. So like I work through lunch most days. I'll work until my husband gets home. And so if he's working late, then I'll just work late. So I've realized I do have to make a schedule for myself and block out the times of this is when I'm going to do this. And when it hits this time, I'm going to be done. And I've realized the importance of taking breaks. I used to feel really guilty about taking breaks because I thought like, well, I'm just at home. I'm being lazy if I do that. But then I realized when you're in an office, you have conversation with your desk mate or, you go to the water cooler, to use that cliche, and have conversations. Yes. So you do have breaks when you're at an office. So I've realized I have to get up from my laptop at different points. My breaks might be like doing laundry or washing dishes or something, but just something to get me up and away from my laptop. It is definitely a challenge though.
So what you're saying is I'm not crazy. This is a normal challenge. Yeah, no, I concur with all of those. I feel like maybe we should get like a water cooler in our homes if you work from home and put it like the furthest distance away from where you do most of your work to just force yourself to get up. I am so focused. Like when I get in the zone of working, I'm just like, go. Like I just want to crank. And it's very hard for me to break away from that and come back to it. Like I would rather just, like you said, push through lunch and be like, it's fine. I honestly, pretty much 95% of the time, eat my lunch at my desk while I'm working and then don't even end up finishing it because I'm just like get in the middle of something and it just gets left there. So this is really me just processing this working from home. I'm also like thinking about not just listeners who work from home, but like the moms who are at home. And granted, it's a little bit harder because depending on your kids and the nap schedules and all the things, it can legitimately feel impossible to take a break. But I just wonder, gosh, what it looks like for them in the midst of their day, like taking the same ideas as you're saying, like don't feel guilty. Because moms work from home, right? Like you're working from home. People who go to the office take breaks. So I'm just going to brainstorm at some point. I'm going to talk to like some mom who's mastered that. Be like, what does that look like? Do you take water cooler breaks? Do you lock your kids in the room?
Well, I know a friend who she has the kids have an hour of quiet time each day. So whether they're taking a nap or they just have to go in their room and have quiet time, and that's her time. And I thought that was a great idea of, you just need that hour. Like that's her lunch break, essentially,
Yeah, seriously. I feel like it just makes us better at what we do, truthfully. Like when we can step away, at least for me, as much as it's hard for me to do, I can't deny the fact that when I come back to it, like my brain is fresh, I feel better. Like sometimes I even just need like a fresh perspective if I'm doing creative work and I'll come back and be like, oh my gosh, like why didn't I think of that before?
Well, and too, going back to making sure my relationship with Christ isn't suffering, everything I do, because for the most part, I'm only doing Christian work, like Christian articles. I am writing about God and Jesus every single day. And so many times I've had to stop and remind myself, if I'm not praying through my articles before or while I'm writing them, if I'm not asking God's direction, then what an awful witness that I am of like encouraging people of, hey, here are ways to rest during your busyness. And then I'm not doing that. I was really convicted about that this weekend because I woke up early on Saturday morning, early, 7 o'clock. I don't have kids. So
it's fair. It's fair. We're all there and we'll all end up there again. So there's no judgment.
But I woke up and I immediately thought, I should get work done. And I was thinking like, no, I should read my Bible first, but it was like this, I'll just check it off my list. And I felt so convicted because I had just written an article about having too busy of a schedule. And I realized I cannot be this hypocrite who writes these things and then doesn't practice it myself. So I made myself breakfast in bed, and my husband was at a retreat that weekend. So I just made myself breakfast in bed and read my Bible, and it was a wonderful, peaceful time. And I realized, why don't I do this more often?
We should listen to ourselves more often. It's probably a good life lesson. So, Emily, you are coming to Simply Beautiful this fall. I'm curious. Give me a sneak peek. First of all, why come to Simply Beautiful? I know you mentioned good opportunity. What are you excited to share with our audience of teen girls, moms, and mentors? What's God laid on your heart for this crew?
I'm really excited to talk about finding God in our routine. I think that, well, first of all, that's been a theme of my life the past few years. And I mostly write for like college and older age, but I realized it's such a good topic for high schoolers and even middle schoolers too. Just thinking life can seem really mundane and ordinary when you're just going to class, 6 or 7 or however many classes, and then you come home, maybe do sports, do homework, go to bed, then start again. And I realized that even in that time, God is still revealing himself in different ways. So I'm really excited to talk about how, for a high schooler, do you find God in those moments? And how can you realize that even when life seems boring or unexciting, that God is revealing himself to you in different snippets throughout your day? But we have to recognize that. We have to have eyes to see that, or we're going to miss it. But he does give us those different scenarios during our day that we can see him. So that'll kind of be my overall theme, and then I'll talk more of the how-tos also. So I'm excited to meet new people, and also I've heard Kristine talk about this for a few years, so I am excited to see it for myself. And my aunt and my cousin, they volunteer, so I'm just excited to see how God moves at this conference and experience something that I haven't before.
So I don't want to give any spoilers to your actual talk, but what you're describing is really like a life lesson, right? Because mundane can totally be in any season of life. Oh, yes,
absolutely.
In fact, I love you sharing this because one of the things that I think about a lot and am often burdened for, not just other people, but for sure myself, is how often the enemy uses mundane in my life to distract me from pursuing God. And just almost like a numbing effect. Like you just do the next thing and the next thing, and it becomes so easy to just go through the motions and pop it into basically autopilot. Like I'm just doing my thing. So again, without giving anything away, do you think you could just give us here are a couple of things in my life that have been just practical to-dos that have really helped me in that?
Yeah. The biggest one is prayer for me. If I'm not starting out my day asking God, reveal yourself to me in different ways, give me eyes to see, then I might not have that attitude throughout the rest of the day. So I really try to focus my Bible time in the morning on what lesson can I learn. And obviously coming to scripture shouldn't just be about what can I learn about myself for my day, but that is a part of it. So thinking, what are the things I'm going through right now and how can I see God working on that throughout my day? So starting with prayer is the first thing. And I say that also telling myself, hey, remember that that's something that you need to be doing. But then also, as I see those moments throughout the day, not just rushing by them, because I think we're so busy, even though life can be ordinary and mundane, to use those words, we are very, very busy. And it causes us to just try to get through that next thing so we can move on to the next thing, and then so we can have time to relax in the evening. So I think because we are so busy, we might see how God is working, but we rush by it. So in those moments, taking time, even if you're in the middle of something and you don't have time to just sit and pray, but at least like focusing your mind on that and maybe jotting it down in your phone or on a piece of paper or whatever, saying like, I just saw God here. And then later coming back to that and meditating on it, praying through it. So I would say those are the two biggest things for me.
I love it. Okay, so I have one last thing I'd love to do before we wrap up today. If you're up for it, brand new for season 3 is this whole I'm just being a dork and basically rapid fire, get to know you questions. Yeah. I don't know why, but I am one of those people that when those dumb quizzes come on social media that just ask like random questions about you. So I rarely ever fill them out, but I love reading them.
So like what Disney princess would you be? Like those types of ones?
Well, yes, those two, but no, more the ones where people fill out information about themselves and you can go read each of their like answers of, oh, how many siblings? Yeah. That's a dumb example, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know if that's like a form of hypocrisy that I don't actually do them. I just creep on everyone else's. But this is basically my version of forcing you to do one of these that I just made up. So even though it's called Rapid Fire, I need to give it a better name. Hey, you're all about words. Maybe you can rename.
Headlines are my weakness, though, so no problem.
Darn it. Come on, Emily. Just kidding. My husband's really good at this. I should just ask him to rename it. That'll be his job next because he has like a lot of time. He's just looking for what to do with it. Okay, so even though it's called Rapid Fire, you don't have to be like, and then yell out answers. It's fine. Mainly because if you yell, I'm going to hit myself a little. That can be scary.
I am ready. My heart's beating really fast, but I'm ready.
I know. That's how I feel too. Okay, so first and foremost, to know if we can be friends, Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Well, that's a trick question because we really don't have Dunkin' Donuts in Indiana.
I know, but when you come out here and you visit, what drive-thru are you pulling?
Probably Dunkin' Donuts because donuts.
Okay, I was going to say friendship over, except I agree that Dunkin' Donuts has the donuts, but when it comes to the beverages,
yes,
I'm a Starbucks
girl.
Girl.
Coffee is better, but I love those donuts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so having a conversation, would you rather text or call?
Oh, call. I'm not a texter.
Okay.
No? I do it because it's necessary, but...
I feel you. Also, our friendship just ended right there, but that's cool. We'll finish the interview. If you're going on a road trip, would you rather drive or ride? This is revealing your issues. No, I'm just kidding.
I would rather drive because it would keep me more entertained, and I'm prone to motion sickness. So if I'm driving, I probably won't get that.
Oh, friendship reunited. That is literally the exact reason why I drive. Okay, give me your favorite musician or song.
I don't have a favorite song, but if I'm going to just go to music, it would probably be Need to Breathe. Really love them. And their concerts are amazing.
I've seen them a couple of times. They're pretty fantastic. Okay, what is the last book that you read and you really enjoyed it?
Okay, so I'm kind of a dork when it comes to books, and I really like fantasy books.
Fabulous.
So I just recently read the Aragon series. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Oh. But it's all about like, this is going to make me sound really pathetic, but it's all about like this world where there are dragons and like this evil lord is conquering the land, and this one boy who's a nobody has to rise to the occasion and become the hero of the day. And it's a massive book series, so it took me a few months to get through, but that was one of those books where you just can't put it down.
You loved it? Okay, we're adding this to the list. Okay, I need to know, what is your celebrity crush? Or who, rather. That would not be a what.
Oh, boy. I have to say, again, I'm revealing my dorkiness. Tom Welling, who was Superman on the Smallville series.
Yes. I mean, who can resist Superman? Come on. I mean, I'm a Batman girl myself, but I'll give you Superman. Okay, what is the last movie that you actually paid money to see, whether you rented it or went to the theater to see it?
Ooh. Can you tell how often we watch movies?
I was about to be like, not a movie girl. Okay.
We went to movies a few months ago and saw, the new Avengers. That's what we saw.
Oh, did you like it?
I did like it. I feel like I shouldn't talk about it because I don't want to spoil it. If
I was going to say,
haven't seen it.
No spoilers.
I wasn't a fan of the ending. I'll just say that. But I know that it had to happen for future movies.
I'll agree to that extent. Yes. I have very mixed feelings about how that went down. Okay. Last question. You're going to the movies, you and your hubs, you get to pick your favorite junk food to bring along. Not that I'm condoning hiding things in your purse, but let's just say, what would you choose?
I would either choose Reese's cups or the M&Ms that are the peanut butter, not the peanut filled, but the peanut butter filled.
Peanut butter. Oh, girl, we're going to the movies together. Something with a happy ending. Let's just say that. Fantastic. Okay, so that's my last question, but I actually have added one book recommendation for you if you have not already read it. Are you ready? The Disappearances by Emily Bain Murphy. She was actually a guest on our podcast. She's a friend of mine. She wrote this book. I feel like you might love it. And because I don't even read like fantasy series, I stinking loved this book.
Really? The Disappearances.
So, yes. The Disappearances. It's her first book, but it will not be her last. So, get in on that early train because this girl's going.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you, Emily, so much for being on the show today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Okay, now you've met Emily. I enjoyed so many parts of this, but I have to say, I'm just going to focus on a couple of things really quickly. First of all, I don't know why, but I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation about the Christian movie industry and how she just had this dream to go and act in that to make that industry better. And actually, I would say that the more recent movies that have come out, I've thoroughly enjoyed. And so it was a fun conversation. It was fun to remember back to kind of the weird movies that I saw as a kid, like the Left Behind. I don't even know if it was Left Behind, but it was creepy. Does anybody else remember these? It was all like tribulation movies. And I don't know, it was weird. I would love, seriously, if you've heard it, comment and let me know what was the weirdest Christian movie you saw growing up, if you used to watch those. I'm just curious. But Emily mentioned a few different times in her story about how she was kind of on a course going a direction and God very much called her to something different and kind of gave her that nudge and, it's time to switch majors, or, you thought you were doing this and now you're doing this. And I think I mentioned it even in the interview, but I just really was encouraged and like a good kind of challenge. With each time that God did that, she became a lot faster to respond. Like the first time she talked about, it took a year for her to really do what she knew God was calling her to do. And then the next time, a little less time. And then the third time, she's like, okay, I'm just going to do this. And I kind of needed that reminder today of, what? When God puts things on my heart or he nudges me or he calls me to things, I can dig in my heels or be stubborn or process it for years. I don't know, but I'm really just making myself more miserable. Like, it's always the better decision to just obey and trust that God sees a much bigger picture than I'm probably looking at that I'm definitely looking at from my vantage point. So that was something that I needed a reminder of, because this is a season of just different for me right now, like a different job, a different schedule, different season of life. And I just feel like God has been nudging me a lot and opening doors. And I've been a little hesitant, or like really hesitant. And some of it is fear, some of it is, insecurity, and just, I was reminded today that I just need to be obedient and to follow God, to trust Him that as He opens doors, He's not asking me to go alone. He's going with me, and that He's got a plan for it all. So I don't know what part of this encouraged you, but I pray that all of this story, this episode was just a bright spot in your day. And once again, we would love to hear from you. I love all the messages I get on my Instagram, at Bethany Needham, the DMs, all of those things. Your encouraging words mean so much this season. So thank you for that. And I cannot wait for next week. And for now, I hope you have an incredible week running your race in your place and keep being awesome for Jesus. Bye.